Hello, Mastertron Tamer here. I have got a really fun project for us to do together. We are actually going to be building a Snapmaker Artisan together. First we'll build it, then we'll run it through its phases, and then we'll make some stuff with it because that's what it's for. Before I get started, I just wanted to thank the people at Snapmaker for sending out this gear so that we could make this video. And let's go ahead and open it up and see what comes in the box. So I have the full 3-in-1 kit, and there's actually additional boxes. My understanding is that this one big box that's in front of me has all we need to get started and set it up as a 3D printer. So we'll go ahead and do that. One of the purposes of this video is to kind of take this journey together because I've had a little bit of experience with engraving machines. In fact, it was my first 3D build, was a small one. But I've been doing primarily 3D printing for some time now. And so this is going to be, I'll be stretching and learning, and I'll be passing on what I learned to you. So let's go ahead and get going. All right, now we just need to get into the box. Hopefully that will stay down so it doesn't pop up in the way of the camera. Okay, let's see what's inside the box. There's those handy dandy scissors I had. I like the presentation. The very first thing you see is the quick start guide, and we will make good use of that. So let's go ahead, and I'll put that to the side for now, and take off the first foam. So this top foam, we won't be using that again, but actually this bigger piece of foam inside we will, and I'll be talking about how we do that. All right, so let's see what we've got here. Here we have the linear rails that we're going to be putting together. Over here on this side we have the control unit with the kill switch on it, and if I'm not mistaken, this will be our, it says toolbox, but I think the hardware is in there as well. And power cord, that makes sense. And that's it for that. So I'm going to need to pull this all out of here. I'm thinking though I want to keep them in this foam for now. Let me pull this out. So you can see that a little bit better. Here we have the control panel that we'll be using, and the kill switch again on the top. On the back I see a fan port, as well as all the places where we'll be connecting in the actuators. So that takes care of that. Let me gently put that down. And might be a little rubber foot. I'll double check that. Oh, there's another one. I'll see what's going on with those. And then let's see if we can lift this whole thing out, if that's even a possibility. Yeah, we can. And I'm going to put this off to my side here real quick. And we'll be going into that. But before we do, let's check out what else we have. So this is our build plate on the bottom. I think you can kind of see how large an area that is. I think it's 400 by 400. And that is the base of the unit. Over here, these are the upright brackets. And then we have some other brackets. This, unless I'm mistaken, is the mounting clip for the print head or other tool that you're using. And this is going to be our dual extruder. So we can just pull it out of there. There we go. Yeah, that is our dual extruder. We'll be looking at that more closely. And then I think we have one more layer to take out of here. And then we will get to the base of the unit. I think it will reduce the weight if I pull out this base here, the build surface. And we'll see what's under there. All right, this is a really nice setup. These look like spools, holders. We have filament wise, I believe that this one is water soluble filament. And then we have a PLA spool down here in orange. Oh, well, maybe I was wrong about the screws, because this looks like where all the screws are. These are all the interface cables. And we'll be putting that together. And this has glue for 3D printing. That might be a cover. All right. Let me pull these out. These look like they might be half kilo spools. And there's one more thing we need out of here. I'm going to take this aside, our extruder, and see if we lift this out again, if that's the plan here. Yeah, that was what we wanted to do. There we go. Like I said, place that over to the side. And this is the base plate of the whole machine. And it's hard for you to appreciate this because you can't see it as well as me, but this is very solid. It looks like it is cast aluminum, and these mounting surfaces where we're going to be mounting something have been milled with, it looks like good precision, so that every one of these will mount exactly where we want it to be. So that is good as well. All right. Let me take that out. And I think that is the end. Yep. So as you can see, very well packed. And it's got everything we needed. So, due to the magic of editing, I'm going to clean up some of the stuff that we don't need and get situated, and then we're going to go ahead and start the build. But now that we've seen everything that's in here. Alright, so be right back. Okay, I'm back and we can go ahead and get started with the assembly. A few things to point out. First of all, I thought the screws would be in with this toolbox. It's not, and I'll just put this here so you can see all the cool little tools that come with it. This thing that looks sort of like a whistle, that's the USB drive, clippers, a palette spatula, hex wrenches, kind of the normal things that you would expect to come with a nice machine like this. I was also going to point out this, that I first took it out, I thought perhaps this was some type of a storage bag. It looks like it's wire management, and we'll look at that. And let's take a quick peek at what we get for our quick start guide, because it's actually kind of nice. Talks about what you can do with a machine. Has a nice section here before you start. Good safety information. Should definitely read through all the safety information. I mean, we are talking about lasers and cutting and all kinds of things. Then we have an exploded view of what's in the packaging. So that's kind of nice, so that you know what everything is. And the tools, screws, clips, parts, and then there's a code to scan to go get the full manual. It mentions down here too that there's also a PDF. So there's both a video tutorial and a PDF. And I went ahead and printed out the PDF, and we'll be using that. One of the reasons I did that is it makes it much harder to skip something. So we can use it as a checklist as we go through the assembly process. And then of course when I'm done I'll recycle it. But let's go ahead. I mean, it's in this PDF is good information, such as kind of the size, about the linear actuators. And the first ones we're going to use are the Y-axis, a pair of them. So I've actually got those sitting right here, ready to go. And then it talks about how we're going to assemble it. So let's go ahead and start that. So they want you to make sure that you have the right ones. And to do that, they say, look at this connector, and it'll say Y for the linear actuator that's for that. We have two of them, and so we can do those. Now, to put this together, when I have built 3D printing machines in the past, I like to build them on a very level plane. I usually use a granite work surface, which is quite level. I'm not going to need that in this case because they have machined this down to really good accuracy. So we'll just be building it right here. Let me move this out of the way so I can show you kind of what the next step is. All right. So first thing is, don't immediately throw away your foam, because we're going to use this as part of our assembly. They have cleverly on the reverse side put in areas for us to put our machine together. So I think, because I need to run the cords, I want to put it in like this. And that's our first step. One more thing that they warn you about is this metal membrane is a little bit fragile. Don't ever grab it by that. And we're also going to need to remove these labels. These are on here to keep this from moving in shipment. But seeing how we're ready to assemble, we don't need those on there. All right. And they fit right in these cool little slots. I'll grab the next one. Again, holding it by the sides, not by here. We'll verify that this one also says Y, so that we're good there. Remove that. Put that down. Okay, so that's our first step. Our next step is going to be to put the base that I just took off the table on here. As part of that step, we're going to be running these wires through. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off so that that will facilitate that. And it's time to put it back. The weight is not trivial, and I think it goes this way. Now, one of the features of this is there are these metal dowels. We need to make sure that those get seated. They also make sure that we've got this aligned the right way. So the first step is there's a hole here and here, and we need to run this cord through there. Okay, that's one. Okay, we want to make sure this is not twisted where it goes on. And then we want to seat this. You heard 2 clicks. That should be seated. We should see the threads for all of the screws, and those all line up, and it has gone down. So those dowels are engaged. So the next thing is to put the screws in, and we have a bunch of those to put in. This is one of the most important things. We've got to get this nice and solid on there. So I'm going to deviate slightly from the instructions because I build things a little bit differently. Not that I'm not following every instruction that they're going to give us. I'm just going to do things a little bit sort of my way. So let's move on to the next step. Again, this is the beauty of using this as a checklist. And that illustration shows us all the screws that we have to put in. But there's a reason for that. This base needs to really be solid. And it tells us that we need the M5 by 12 screws. So let me grab those. Assuming they're marked, that's M5 by 16. let's see what we've got here. In 5 by 12. And if you're unfamiliar with what that means that the diameter of the screw is 5 millimeters and it is 12 millimeters long. I think it is safe to put them right here. It might be faster than grabbing them out of the bag each time. And we're going to need to start these. Now, the instructions say to use the blue. It's nice that it's color-coded. Hex wrench for putting these in. Yep, that's the right one. I won't be tightening them with those though. And the other thing that I'm going to do a little bit different is I'm going to use just a smidge of a thread lock on each of these. These machines have tremendous vibration, and over a long period the screws could loosen up, but it's probably unlikely. So this is a step, it's totally me, but because they have put so many, there's 4 on each side here, another 8 here, another 8 here. One of the reasons there's this many screws is they want to make sure that it doesn't vibrate free. So this could be considered an unnecessary step, but it's just something I like to do. Okay. And it only takes the smallest amount of this, and I will go ahead and get all these screws started. And this goes with bolts or screws, any machine. You always finger start them. You never start them with a wrench. I had a mechanic teach me that years and years ago. If it won't go in with your fingers, then there's something wrong. And a wrench is not going to make it any better. Alright, so we've got them all, whoops, there we go. We've got them all done. So the instructions say, starting from the outside in, to do them all tight with the wrench, with it in this narrow configuration like this. And what they're effectively doing is reducing the amount of torque that you can put on it on the first pass. And then they say, after you've done them all, to come back this way where you could put more torque on it for a final pass. And that's not bad. I'm going to do something a little different though, because I kind of like to get them to be all the same torque. That's going to help with the alignment. So let me show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so now they're all the very first tightening. And what the instructions say to do is to tighten like this, as tight as you can, starting from the outside, working your way in. Once you've done them all, to come back like this and give them your final tight. And that will get them roughly the same torque. And that's not a bad, but, and I'll put a link for this tool in the description. There is a thing called a torque screwdriver, which is quite a bit more accurate for this type of work. So let me grab what I think is the right bit. Not that one. That one. So I don't know how well you can see this, but there's a scale here, and we change that scale by pulling it out and twisting it. So let me move this up. Now it's all the way at the bottom because you're supposed to leave it at the lowest torque setting when you're not using it. So I've got it at 30 inch-pounds. And then again, they want us to do the outside ones. Okay, so these are all torqued to the same. And like I said, I could have done that like this. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, that's very close to how much torque you could get with that wrench. But I'm going to go ahead and give it another pass. I'll move it up to 40 inch-pounds. And we'll go over them. All right, we are on there solidly at this point. Let me put these away before I lose them. And now we can just lift it out of here with the actuators on there. All right. And we want to make sure these aren't moving, that this all looks good. Make sure our wires aren't pinched. It all looks good. The other thing I didn't mention is before I mounted all this, I inspected all of these to make sure there weren't any metal filings or anything off that might, and they were perfectly clean. But that would be a good step. All right, so now we have got that put together. And the next page says flip it over, which we just did. It says identify the two with Z on them. And here's a Z. So let's grab both of them. They want us to have both of the Z's, or Z, if you learn to call it that in your part of the world. All right. And we've got them. I think that was all we needed to do for that step. And they want us to mount these X connectors. All right. Insert the dowels of the X-axis connector into the dowel holes of the Z-axis sliders. Well, these are the ones they're talking about. I'm pretty sure. Huh. It just kind of snaps in there. We'll grab the other one, and we'll do the same thing. All right. That's accomplished. Oh, I knew there were screws in our future. Here they are. This time we want M512s, which is what we were using last time. So let's go ahead and put those in. And two more to go. And again, I'm just putting just the smallest smidge of this on here. It does not take much, and we don't want it to get into anything in the mechanism. All right. Then we'll take our wrench to get them down. Okay. And I'm actually using a special type of locking that's in a gel configuration, so it doesn't drip into anything. That would not be good. And I'm going to tighten in a crisscross pattern. And then I'm going to do a final, I think, at about 40-inch pins. Yeah, right there. And then we're good. All right. Those are attached. I think the next thing is to attach them right here to the base. And it's a chicken or the egg thing. Do we put them on here first, or do we put them on the base first? It looks like we attach them to the... Yeah, we do this first. And what size do we want? More M512s. And that's going to be down here. Right here is where we're going to attach that. So I'm flipping it around so that I can get at it a little bit better. Okay. Now, these big hefty cast brackets, and again, you look at the machine surfaces, make sure they're clean. These look great, and we can go ahead and put it in. But remember, we didn't want to miss a step. One of the steps is right here. We need to feed this cord out through this bracket. We definitely do not want to pinch it. Make sure the dowels fit, make sure that the wire's not pinched. And then we can go ahead and put them in there. All right, I think we have accomplished that part. And now it is time to attach them to here. So that's not going to tip over while I'm doing this. And more M512s. So I'm not going to be able to tighten this one the way I was doing before. I can see I won't have clearance for the wrench, but that'll be okay. Again, make sure you get it started by finger first, so you don't get it cross-threaded. I did these right. So for this one, what I'm going to do is just use one finger at the end, and then I'm going to move over here in a cross pattern and do the same thing. And that gives me a pretty good similar torque on all of them. And just passing them one more time. Alright, those are solid. Let's move on. It wants us to move these down, and I think that's for the installation of this last one, and I think we want it turned around for that. There we go. out from under here. All right. So we're going to move them down. We're going to need to take these off. Let's see if it says how far. Furthest stop. Yep, heard that. All right. And we need the x-axis. If this one's not the x, we have messed up somewhere. Nope, that's the right one. Insert the dials. The dial hole, they show the cord coming off on this side. Okay, now I assume we need some screws to hold this all together. But for that, we're going to want to come from the other side. So that's a little trickier. Okay. And then we need to mount some clips. And it looks like I need to flip it around for that to do it right. I just almost pushed too hard on that membrane, so yeah, be very careful with that. Alright, so they gave us these clips, I remember them. And they all look the same. Now here we do not need Loctite. We just need to put these on because these are plastic. We definitely don't want to over tighten them. So this one goes here. All right, we are getting close to being done. We are to take this cord and bring that up. There is a little yellow band that I hope you can see, and they want us to line that up in this slot. There we go. I don't like that there's that extra twist in there. I'm going to take that out. Just don't want to damage the wire in the process. All right, let me get that twist out of there. So this means it can go all the way down. That's why they're so careful about us lining up those marks. They want this wire to have enough play to go all the way. All right, and then we have another wire which should be labeled tool. Nope, that's not this one. This is for the bed. There must be yet another wire that we want for this. I have got way too many of these to keep track of right now. Let's take that one off so we know. Oh, I may have found it. I think we've got it right here. Yes, this one says tool on it. It should also have a mark with two little lines. And one line. Let's see how this works. About the right length. It says single here. The thing that's confused me just a little bit is there's a wide one on this end. But I'm going to go with a single one here. That's for connecting up to the tool. And then the double line goes up here. There. All right. And then the last part they want us to do is to mount. Well, we have two more things. Let me get this turned around so that we can do that. We can move on to the last steps. Did the clips, did that. All right, now we need to mount. It says attach the tool head bracket. And this little lever is going to go on the top. This is how we quick release the tools out of there. All right. They show it in the middle, so I'm going to go ahead and move it there. We want flat heads, and we want 5/16 flats. There we go. Okay, the next thing it says is to pull these as far forward as they'll go. So I'm doing that. And then I think we are going to mount the bed. Yep, that is the next step. So let me grab it right over here. Now this one already has the heated bed attached, and I'm pretty sure we want to remove that. There's a latch. Oh, there it goes. Alright, so I'm gonna wager that this clip goes towards us. But does it go that way or this way? Oh, I bet it goes this way. Because there's a recess for the screw heads if it goes this way. Yep, and that matches what we've got in our diagram. And now we're going to use 5/16 to put this together. Okay. And it says it wants us to me to put both hands under here and lift the unit over the holders. And that is the end. All right, well, fantastic. I think we're going to end it here because this is already fairly long. We've got the core unit built. all that is left would be to configure it in one of its ways. So we can configure both laser, which we put a laser bed on here, or we can configure for CNC, so we would put that bed on here. But we also have the heated bed, which is for specifically printing, 3D printing. I think that's the first configuration that we'll go with. But let's do that in our next video. In the next video, we will go ahead and get it configured up for 3D printing, and we'll walk through doing our first print. That'll be kind of our goal, and we'll go from there. So I hope this has been helpful information. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in our next video.